Okay, here. Just kind of getting things, doing a little prep work here while I'm waiting for some people to come in. You feel free to drop in and say hi. Hey, Alex. When are you going to come by the shop, Alex? Hope you can come by. You can get together or something. Here. Whoa. That over here where it won't hurt anybody. Here. Okay. So good afternoon, Alex. And as soon as we get some other people in here, we'll get started. I thought we might start off with a little pen project. Building a woodshed, yeah. Yeah, it can be. Problem is, you start off with a simple plan, and then you start thinking too much. That's usually my case. I start. Oh, I'm going to just fix stuff on this wall, and then pretty soon I end up with stuff all over the place, mixed up. So it can't get away from you, especially if you have an active imagination as you're going along. You know, you start to do other things, and a simple project can become a hard project really quick. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Hi, everybody that's coming in. Join the party. Please feel free to get in the comment section here for a minute while we're waiting for people, and tell us where you're from. I'd like to know where people are from that are watching. I don't know if you're in the United States or over in Europe or some other part of the world. Kind of let us know. I'd appreciate that. So I'll show you what we got going here in just a minute. But I got a couple of wood blanks. This is one. I've got one on here that I haven't drilled yet because I thought we'd start right from the beginning just so people could see what's the whole process of putting a pen together. And then we'll go from there. I cheap shed and then made more improvements. Yeah. Well, you can do that. Yeah. I've had cheap sheds and I've had more expensive cheap sheds. I've had a little bit of everything. So, okay, well, I'm going to show you guys what we're going to be working on here. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus down here. Okay, get you a good view. Okay, right about there. How's that? That a good view? Hey, Tim, welcome in. So, as some of you may know, I've been getting these kits from Strongink right here, and real good company. I mean, very, 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 very high quality. I mean, I what I did the other day is I took a couple of the Strongink ones and I held in my hand. I cut a couple of my other pens that I've made from other companies. You can feel a substantial amount of difference in weight. I mean, they're just heavier. They're heavier built. They're just better made, and the kits are pretty damn easy to put together. And we're going to talk about this. I'm going to make a kit today that's probably the easiest possible kit you could make. Okay, but I will say one thing: most of these are set up, as a lot of kits are set up in millimeters, not in inches. So I went out and got myself a set of, and Dave from Timber Designs was talking about this the other day. Went out and got a set of millimeter drill bits in half increments. In other words, like 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, and so forth, up through 13. And that should give me enough different ones. Because the first thing you want to do is you want to drill a hole for the sleeve to go into. So I'm going to do this now. You make your wood a little bit longer, just a little bit longer than you actually need. And that's for a couple reasons. One, you might have a little blowout. I've made 2 of these because this one is spalted maple. And spalted maple is famous for blowing out. So I'm going to be taking this very carefully on this one to try and get this in here. Okay, so let's turn it on. We'll get up a decent speed. And we'll try drilling this in there. Now, there's some people that use the crank, some people that just use a hand and just push it in. I kind of prefer using the crank when I can. I want to have a little control over it. And I'm going to back it out right about here. And that's just to make sure that nothing is catching. Okay. I can go back in. And I can now make this a little bit closer. It's a nice dry piece of wood, so that helps. Okay. Sorry about the squeaking noise. Nothing I can do about that. No matter if you wax it or not, it still does it. Okay, and we are through the other side. What causes that squeaking is these grooves get filled with wood, and then it's rubbing as it's going through. Well, we made it through, and we did not blow out the back end. That's really good. That's one problem out of the way already. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. There, that's out of my way now. I'm done with this. I'll set that over here. And we'll take this out of the holder. And I'll take this off because I'm not going to need it anymore either. So, and I keep one of my chucks just in this position so I can use pen blanks and so forth with it. It's just kind of a handy way to do it. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. You can drill these on a drill press. You can do it a number of different ways. And I've tried a lot of different ones. This is just one of the ways to do it. Pardon me a second while I get my other kit here. All right. And okay. I will get my glue. There we are. All right. So what we have is we have a brass tube. This one happens to be 9.5 millimeters. And you always want to scratch them first on some really rough sandpaper and get some scratches on it because it's really smooth. And the grooves that you put on with the sandpaper will help the glue stick to that surface. Okay. You're going to use a little CA glue. You can use epoxy also. Most people use CA glue. I have a little helper here, which kind of holds it. And I hope you can see that in the picture, but this helps hold it together a little bit. Yeah, you can, like I said, you can wax the drill bit, but it just doesn't help sometimes. You know, it just the way it is. So, I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Hi, Mark. So we're going to put some glue on here. I'm just going to use some inexpensive glue. I like to use the gel glue when I can. I just didn't have any handy at the moment. I've got some actually coming this week at our turners meeting. The wood turning group I belong to, we buy CA glue in bulk orders. so that everybody gets the bulk order price. It's really kind of cool because we don't have to, don't have to worry about that, overpaying or underpaying. Like we're paying wholesale prices, so we're getting it for probably about 20% of what you pay for CA glue. So it's really nice. It's a nice little benefit. Okay. Now I'm just going to let that sit and dry, and we're going to actually work on the other one here that I already had going. This one, it comes with a couple of make sure I can get it on there. There we go. It's like that. And what these do is they hold it in place, and they give you a place where you're supposed to stop. It holds it onto the 7mm mandrel, and it tells you where to stop when you're turning. And they need a couple pieces here on the end just to keep it from rolling out on me here. Just a second. Just give me a second here. It's one of those things where when you need something, you don't have it, and when you don't have it, you don't need it, and kind of goes back and forth like that. Oh, come on, I have bunches of these. Where do they all go? Well, I'll steal one. There. I'll just steal one. That's what I'll do. Okay. You can put this little knurl on the end here to make it nice and tight. And this one only has one piece of wood to do, so that makes it pretty easy. Kind of bring that in a little bit closer for you. Okay. And tighten that up. Okay. You don't want to over tighten because you don't want to create a bow in the mandrel. Also, just an FYI, I like to take a little sandpaper and sand off the sides just a little, the corners just a little bit. Just makes it a little bit easier when you're turning. I'm going to put my mask on just for a minute because this is walnut. And I don't like to get breathe walnut shavings too much if I don't have to. Well, I hope all of you are having a good day. It being a Monday and all. Did any of you survive, your brackets survive the weekend with all the upsets and so forth? I'm sure a lot of you didn't think that Florida was going to lose in the NCAA tournament. You want to be aggressive, you don't want to be overly aggressive here. Because it's easy to chip off the wood, you don't want to do that. Yeah, we're getting near that. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because that's what the sanding is for. But you want to be right down up against these as close as you can. Just very lightly. Okay. Wanted to take that off really nice. Okay, good. So now we can proceed with the sanding. And I have mine marked. This is the 150 sandpaper. We're going to speed it up a little bit more. As some people like to say, mock Jesus. We'll get the near mock Jesus level. You know, I'm going to turn the light on here so you can see a little bit better. I'm trying to get this evened out best we can. And I'm going to turn it, go the other direction. So it looks like it is the bolt action one. Yes, it is the bolt action one. It's the one I showed at the beginning of the video. There, it's on the opening screen, the setup screen. Okay, going to do a little cross scratching there. That's always good to do before you go to the next level. And I feel a little bit of a denting right there, so I got to be real careful with that. Okay, so we got the 240. Yeah, 240 here. I'm going to be really careful to get that any little lines out of that. This is the one that brings it right into ready for polishing mode. And I like just putting a little bit of tension on it when I'm bringing it across. You don't need a long piece. Okay. And I can see a little bit of figuring on there. We'll see if that comes out. This is pretty dark walnut, this particular piece. I got a lot of pieces of walnut in different sizes for different projects. I always seem to be grabbing them for something. Feels really good. It looks a little rough looking, but it's actually not. It just feels really good. I guess that's just the reflections on it. I'm starting to see some of the figuring on the wood. And I do have one interesting little bowl we're going to do today too. Okay, I think we're there. Okay, let me take this off for a minute. I think we can proceed with putting a little finish on here. Now, we've been trying a lot of different finishes lately. I'm going to go with the beeswax today. I know some guys like to do several coats of CA and whatever, and that's all fine and good, but I just like the natural feel of the wood, and it can easily be redone at any time. You know, once you get it on there, you can reset up your pen anytime you want and just polish it up a little bit. So let's turn this on. And you can start to see some of the grain in this wood now. You probably can't on your view, but I'll show it to you later where you'll be able to see it's got some dark and some lighter brown in it, and a little bit of chatoyance in there too. It's where it picks up the light. So it looks kind of cool. Okay, we'll put on another coat. This. I'm going to rub it in a little bit, and then we'll turn it on. We'll go a little faster this time. Do a little bit of a friction finish to it. This is not going to be a high gloss finish, but I don't think it needs to be because I think the pen is glossy enough. That wood kind of tones it down just a little bit. It has a nice burnished look to it. That's just personal preference. Everybody has their own. So, you know, what do you guys like? After I count beans. Oh, yeah. How you been doing, soldier? I know you've been pretty busy lately. You've been putting out a lot of highlights and a lot of videos and stuff, like almost every day. If you haven't checked out his channel, you should, guys. Soldier Farms, you should check it out. Meanwhile, while you're here, please hit the like button or consider subscribing. I'm like 8 short of 4,600. I think I'd like to get to at least the 8 that I need today. That would be really helpful if I could. So if you're so inclined, please give me the 8 that I need. Okay. So I'm going to take the bushings off of each side here. And for now, I'll just leave those bushings in there. No. Deal with them later. I don't like to leave my bushings on because I always misplace them then and I don't have the right ones in the right place. So I've got a question for you. I've got gold and I've got gunmetal, which I think is kind of a funny thing to say when you're talking about a what basically looks like a bolt action bullet gun pen. So which one do you like with this with the walnut? I'm thinking the walnut looks better with the gold, and this would look better with the gunmetal. What do you guys think? Wilson, but your channel's doing fine, Wilson. I mean, I'm watching it a lot, so you're getting all my views. Mike Wilson, board crafting. I mean, but Mr. Wilson puts out some great, some great videos on these strong ink pins. He really does. He's really getting good at it. So I think I'm going to go with the walnut with the gold here. Okay, so let me get my stuff set aside here, and I will bring over my press. Instead of taking you to the press, I'll bring the press over to you. Okay, here's the press. Okay, this is probably one of the simplest pins you will ever put together. Now, I will give you one tip. This end of the pin can be unscrewed. Okay, so you can press it in, unscrew it, and then screw it back in. And that's probably a little bit better bet, simply because if you do it the other way, you're putting a little pressure on that end tip, and I don't like to put a lot of pressure on that end tip. So I'm going to do it like so. Okay, and then here's the other end, right here, and this one I'll need all the room to do. Okay, like this, and press until it's in. That's it. Just press until it's in. Okay, and then drop this in and put the tip on. Oops, I hope I didn't. I think I might have pressed too hard. I did. Oh, that's what gave in. Okay, well, I will have to fix that. It slid up. Let me see if I can get that out of there. If I can't, we're going to be just a little bit embarrassed. No, it doesn't want to. When I pressed that in, it pressed it up and in. That's interesting, guys. That's why you leave the tip on. Well, the problem is if the tip was on there, it might have pushed it through too. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess you're right. I just didn't like putting the pressure on the tip. Well, I can get this out. I'm just going to have to. I have to do it off camera because I can't. I don't want to tie up your time doing it. But basically, you can see what the pin's going to look like. It's going to look like so, and it's going to be a beautiful pin. I just have to take this back off. I can pop that out. I have a tool for that, and we'll have this pin. So we'll go on to the other one. My mistake. So, don't you gotta love live TV, huh? Or live video. So let me put these back here. Get this out of the way. That's almost as much fun as watching a bull come flying off my bench, huh? So we're going to get the mandrel set up, and we will. I'm gonna have to sand off a little bit of this. There's a couple ways I can do this. Let me go over to the bandsaw here for a second. Yeah, I can go again. As you can see, I had a little excess on there, which I said I did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any blowout. And I'm going to just take my sander here, and I'll just sand this down until it gets to the. Normally, I would take this outside to my big sander, but since we're doing this live, I'm just going to do this here. And what we want to do is get down to where we are right in line with that end of that brass tube. This is a beautiful piece of wood, as you can see. And it's also pretty darn hard because it is maple. It's spalted maple. Getting close, getting close. I could use my trimmer, but I'm just really nervous about using extra cutting on these if I don't have to, because the wood just, I've had too many of these explode on me. They just do. It makes for a beautiful pin if you can get it done, but sometimes I'll lose 3 or 4 blanks before I get a pin out of these. Anybody else had good luck with spalted maple? The problem with spalted maple is it's got hardwood and softwood mixed together. So when you're working on it and cutting it and so forth, you tend to get snags on the hard parts. Right there, just right there. You're too far away to use the saw on, and too close, I should say, to use the saw anymore, and too far away to use a sander. It's kind of in between. There we are. We're right on the cusp of it now. And now I got to do the other side. Yep, this one's like a little bit really hard maple, which means it should make a really nice pin. I'm going to see if I can take a little bit off the other side here with the bandsaw. If I'm really careful with it. There we are. See, look at the end grain on this. Even on here, it's really, really figured. And I'm going to try to get into that. I don't want to press in on the sponge because it'll make a curved sanding on it. Boy, it is just. This is 60 grit I'm using right now, and it's barely removing any wood. Okay, well, it's waiting for your order. Yeah. Okay, I think we are about as close as we're gonna get. I don't need to be like right on the brass. They're on the brass there. We're on the brass here. Okay, I think we're good. And my wife can use these for beads or for other projects that she's doing. So That's always a side benefit. Whenever I can leave a little something for my wife to have something to play with, it saves me money. Actually, is what it does. Okay. So I'm going to put this in the bushings. Okay. Here in the bushings, we got our piece, which I hope we got in here enough. I'm going to try real hard. Sanding was a little bit off on the side there. We'll see. Hope I didn't break that. Okay. Got the tight. We're tight everywhere. Let's give this a try. This should be interesting. Like I said, I don't always hold out a lot of hope with this wood because it can be really, really difficult. See over here where I've got this harder wood, it's giving me a little bit of a pushback. It's bouncing it instead of turning it. And the temptation is to push harder, and that's the wrong temptation to go into. The softer wood right here, it works fine. And when you get into that hardwood, it wants to resist. You just can't get it to round yet. It's almost around, but it has a little flat spot there, and that little flat spot is what's making it push back on me. Yeah. I can hear somebody thinking, let's go to the carbides. Let's use the carbide. And I would agree with you. Because I'm not sure I'm going to get much of a better cut. Let's see. Kind of doing the same thing. I ain't sure I can get that down any further. Let's see. Yeah. Drop my tool rest just a little bit more. A better angle. I don't want to create any heat either in the process. Boy, this is just really slow going. I've had better luck with acrylic. That is just really, really hard. Not being very cooperative. I'm getting so close to the end, I don't want to screw it up. Now, let's see. I might try something different. Maybe I can use the skew. Yeah. Yeah, it's starting to crack. It's going to crack off here if I'm not careful. So I'm going to have to sand this down there because it's not going to go any other way. Very, very difficult wood. But that's why I picked it. I wanted to have something to play with and try out a little bit here. Let's see how this comes out. Oh no. Yeah, it's coming down now. There. There we are. My concern is that it may have come loose from the glued brass from the brass inside. I'm trying to think of a word. It may have come loose from that. I don't know. And if it did, I can re-glue that. That's not a big deal, but you don't want it to start creating friction. Okay. And I think that's what it's done. Is it's come loose from the brass tube. That was the word I was thinking. A tube. That happens sometimes. Not a big thing. We're past all the worst part of it anyway at this point. Okay. And here's the 320. And was able to get that shape into it finally. And see if we can do the 400. Yeah, it's loose from the brass tube. I can tell. I think I'll fix that before I put the fitting. I think I want to fix that the glue on the brass fitting before we do anything else, because otherwise I'll be handling it too much. I think that's what's going on here. Let me test it. No, it's glued on. Huh. It has just a tiny piece of the brass showing here. So I'm going to take a drop of glue here. There we go. And some of this fine dust here. On there, and you won't even notice the difference. Here. I'm going to Okay. Think that fixed it. I'll put another little drop just to make sure. It's such a tiny little thing that it shouldn't be a problem. Should blend in just fine. Okay. We'll put that back on here. Put that back on. This back on. I'm going to get one more bushing on here just to be on the safe side. There we are. And I'll just give it another little tiny bit of sanding and it should be just fine. I think we averted an issue. I've turned it around the other way now. It was facing this direction. Okay. And we'll just use the 400 grit here. Just to give it a little bit of a sanding. And I don't think you'll notice a difference. Hi there, Jill. This is spalted maple. That spalting is actually a bacteria. That's why you don't want to be breathing a lot of spalted maple. But that's what that is. And there, I think we got it. Well, we got that off there now. I gotta put my beeswax on it. That's not gonna change the color too much. It darkens it just a little bit, like any wood would darken a little bit when you put something on it that's wet. Spread that back and forth. To get on there, pick up speed on it. And we'll use a little drying effect on it. Now this one, just for a little something different, let's use a little bit of Mylan's. Now Mylan's uses polymers that will harden with friction. And you're gloss it up with friction a little bit. So we're gonna put a little dab of this on here. Okay, turn the speed down. Kind of let that get on there a little bit nice and even. It'll also kind of strengthen that little part that I was talking about earlier. Okay, we got that on. And now we will kick the speed up. And let the friction take over. Now kind of polish it up a little bit too. The heat from the friction helps polish it out a little bit. There's a lot of different things you can use to finish your pins off with, or bowls even too. And just experiment. Experiment. That has a nice glossy finish. Now see here where it's dark, you have that dark wood. That is hardwood. That is shinier than the other stuff, which is a little bit porous. So it kind of picks up both in the finish, which is why I don't always like that as my finished product. And I think I'm just going to go back to some plain old wax to finish it off, simply because I think that makes it'll be a harder finish long term. So let me get my. This is good old paste wax. If you don't have any of the stuff, try and find it somewhere because they don't make it anymore. But it was good enough for doing on hardwood floors and bowling alleys and places like that for about 75 years. And I figure if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for a pin when it comes to polishing something up and giving it a good hard finish. So I'm going to give it a little love here. And I'll pick up the speed a little bit more. There we go. There. That's going to have a good hard finish on it. It's going to last many, many, many years with that finish. Don't get old. It's hard to bend over and get things when you get old. So what do we got going here? Oh, hey, Rich. Good to see you in there. Making sure everybody's in here. Yeah. Yeah. Mark and Gerald and yeah, it's gonna make a nice blank here. Let me get this put together here. Tim had to go. It's too bad he won't get to see the end of it. Well, Tim can always catch us on on the video later if he wants. I'll take this back and we'll pop this out. Okay, we go. Let's see. All right. Put these bushings back where they belong. These go in here before I forget. Well, they make these little baggies so small for my big fat hands. It's not a happy time, I gotta say. Okay. And put the toys away here. I have some more space. And we'll bring this back over. So here's our piece. You can see that. And what I'm going to do now is get the little parts out here. This time I'm not going to take the tip off, even though I thought it would think it was a good idea. I'm not sure why they made the piece so it would slide in, but we will fix that later on the other one. Okay. So we want to put this on the one, and I think I'm going to put the more decorated part up at the top end because I don't want it rubbing off too much with wear and tear and so forth with the fingers. So there we go on that end. Okay. Put the pin in. Get the other piece here. And we're going to squeeze in the other end here. Put that in the hole there. I'm going to squeeze this back so it can just fit in there, I think. There we go. Had to do a little mansplaining to it. No, you got to go in like so. And there we are. And there's the pin. Comes out. So everything works. Good. And it retracts. We've got this nice marking from the spalting. I think this one works out really good. I think this color kind of matches up with this kind of copper tip that we got here. What do you think? I'm going to kind of bring it over here for the camera a little bit closer so you can see up close. That makes a very nice pen. And it's only 3 pieces to it to put together. I mean, it's really, well, I don't want to say idiot proof because this idiot screwed it up on the other one. So it's not completely idiot proof, but it's pretty close to idiot proof. And I apologize for screwing the other one up a little bit with a little tip I thought would make it easier, but it obviously did not. But let me get these out of the way here real quick. And we will move on to our next piece. Get some of this stuff out of my way. Making pins is completely different from making bowls. There's a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different things you're doing with one than the other. Okay. Now let's see if I've caught up with everybody. Are the kits nice? As they say, they are very nice. Like I said, if you want to talk quality, I mean the heft of these pens. This is a hefty pen. This is not a light pen. This has some actual weight to it. I mean, it actually is heavy on the back end here a little bit, which makes writing a lot easier. A lot of the ones that you get from other sources are, I don't know, they're thin. They don't seem to have as much bulk weight to them, and they just are not as nice. This one feels like quality, and I think the price on these, if I looked the other day, I think we're around $5 for this kit. $5.95, something like that for the kit. I don't think you'd find this at some of the other stores for less than $12 to $15 a kit. So for a price standpoint, you can't beat it. And they have a really, really good selection. And they've been really good in talking to them. I mean, when I write to them, I get, of course, maybe it's because I'm affiliated, but I get responses sometimes within a couple minutes of when I write to them. That's how quick a response I get. Of course, it's across the world. It's a different time of day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh yeah, I got this thing. I'm going to bring this down over here to a little different angle if I can. Okay. There. I'm going to bring that over there. A little easier for you guys to see, and I think easier for me to keep an eye on what's going on too. So I think you'll find that angle a little bit better. This is a piece of cork oak. Very interesting piece. It's hard. It's heavy. And it's got this great big branch coming right in here and going right through the middle there. And another one that was coming right through here. So it's got two branches going in. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to encounter. I'm going to try my very best to turn this into a small bowl, and I'm going to try and keep the live edge on top. We will see. The problem is when you try and cut a flat spot on here, you have to go down over half an inch before you hit wood. I mean, because cork is that's the idea of cork, right? You want nice thick cork so that you can put cork in bottles and stuff. Well, to do that, you need cork that's like an inch thick or so. So that's why they developed cork oak, and encouraged it and so forth over the centuries, so that it maintained that. Now, the process problem here is when I start to turn here, I could lose. Now, I've got a saw mark here. I could lose this, and it could knock off the bark. That's a possibility, okay? So I'm just warning everybody ahead of time that stuff is going to fly, okay? So call your friends and neighbors. Make sure they know that to watch whatever's going to happen here. And I will do my best to try and be entertaining and not kill myself in the process. Okay. So I can't get underneath it because it is about 9-10 inches this way. So this doesn't quite fit underneath it yet. Oh, got to do that. I'm going to have to start with it at a very awkward angle. And work my way in. Okay, so I'm just going to very light cut here to find out where I'm at. This is the only way to do this, is to come up the side like this. Don't come straight on with it. Whoa! And there's my chunk. We'll just set that right there. That was a chunk of the branch that we saw sticking out earlier. What's funny about this is some of this stuff that's hitting me, you see it bouncing off of me, is basically cork. It's like having somebody shoot a sponge ball at you. It's just spongy. It's cork. It's nothing. You know, it has no weight. It doesn't hurt at all. You know, that's just what it is. So it's just kind of weird. Okay, but then there's other parts that are like this that come out at you. So now I can move in some. Now I don't have that big piece coming in there. Now I can move in. Okay. Not to ever forget that this is oak. It's a very strong, old oak. I would estimate that the oak around here was probably planted about 140 years ago. So it is old growth oak in that sense. It was planted by the farmers around here for the corking their products. And I can make chester pins. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to catch up on a couple of the comments in here too. Yeah, cork oak is very pretty. If you can get a piece that'll turn, it's just very awkward. And those of you who are fans of the channel have probably seen me turn quite a few cork oak bowls. So nothing new, but each one is a different challenge. Okay, let's see how we're at. Everything held. That hasn't come flying off yet. We're starting to get round. I think I can pull this in now. Yeah, I can. Good. I can now get in a better position. Got quite a bit to do here. And I want to take that all the way through every time. It's nice. It's really cutting nice on the edge, on the end grain here. That's nice. That's good to see. Okay, I'm going to start doing a little bit of an angle here. And the reason I want to try and do an angle is I think I can maybe alleviate some of this without having to make it too small of a bowl in the process. I can kick up the speed a little bit, I think, now that we're getting a little more close to equilibrium. I just love doing that and getting the ribbons coming off of it. Look at these curls up my arm there. So it's pretty dry, at least on the outside. And there's a little bit of moisture. You can feel it. It's a little bit wet. But see, look how smooth that is with that cut. That is like sanded smooth, just with that cut. Okay. Let's see if we can move it a little closer here. Pick it up a little bit faster. Starting to get nice things. I still got this flat spot here and a little bit on here. So I'm going to have to angle this a little bit more. There we are. There, now we got this. Now we can see we got this crack from the pith and a little one forming here. So we're going to have to, when we get in here, I might have to fill this in just a little bit, just to make sure that we are not going to have any problems down the road. Well, let me move in a little bit more. There we go. Nearly there. Gone on this side, it's nearly there. Okay, so one more swipe ought to do it. And we got rid of the flat spots. Okay. Now we just have to worry about the cracks and the stuff on the bottom here. So we've made progress. Not a lot, but we've made some progress. I'm going to push some of this out of the way here. Okay. All right. So we now have the makings of a bowl, and we've managed to keep this on. That's good. All right. So let me work on the bottom here. By the way, I did all this. I didn't have any plan for this when I came in here today. I just saw this piece and I said, that's been staring at me for a while. I think it's time we did something with it. So this has kind of been an off-the-cuff turning today. Sometimes you just get tired of looking at a piece of wood. And you say, it's time to cut that piece. Or turn that piece. see what happens. That's interesting. Okay, we have a well, a little bit compact. I'll straighten that out. Use the skew here. We'll just kind okay, let's see how it goes now. Yeah, it's getting flat now. It does have a little bit of tear out. We'll kind of feather that off just a little bit. No pressure on the blade. Okay, around that edge. Okay, we're going to set up our tenon. Oops, sorry. Let's set up our tenon. See how close I'm getting. Just about in there. Get the hair larger. See if we're getting in the ballpark here now. Yeah, just in there. We're going to have to worry about this though because I'm getting cracks. See that crack? I'm getting a crack there and a crack here. That's not good for business. Yeah, let's see. I think I'm going to have to make this just a little bit deeper than I normally like to do it. Where the wood is. Okay. Now we're going to have to do a little work on here before I take it off of here. Let me do that now, and then we can work on the sides while it's drying. Let's see, what do we got here? Sorry, catch up with you guys here a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to make a coffee cup out of this. It's not the right material for making coffee cups. No, wood generally is not a good unless you're going to seal it completely. And when you seal it, then you run the risk of other problems like non-food safe surfaces and so forth. So you really got to be careful with that. I'm going to go ahead and treat this with a little bit of CA glue here because it needs it. And we'll be able to sand that out. You won't be able to see it later, but we want to make sure that it is holding and not tearing out. Around the edges here. And it's just one of those things you have to do. I mean, sometimes, oh boy, that's hot. This is creating a lot of heat with the oils in this wood. You can smell it. It's creating, man, it is like burning hot. That glue, I know. So that super glue or CA glue does interact with different woods differently, and you have to be careful of that. And I'm going to put a little bit more in here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of wood down in that hole. Just to strengthen that up a little bit because I don't like cracks like that. I don't like cracks like that. And I think we can reinforce that just a little bit. Okay. Reinforce that with a little bit of CA glue. And that crack will pretty much disappear. Not completely, not 100%, but it will mostly disappear. At least from our perspective, it will mostly disappear. And we will find it inside too, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. I know this is a little bit boring, but this is kind of the important part too. Now I'm going to go take the chance to actually put a little tiny bit of glue here too, to make sure we don't lose this big knot from a piece of a branch. I'm going to put a little glue in there just so it holds that in place. All right. So we'll have that. Okay. And then I can work on these sides just a little bit. We haven't done any finishing on the sides yet, so this will just kind of go in there just to make sure that it's not going to do any more. We're just kind of painting those a little bit because you get cracks when moisture leaves from the center out. That's where you get most of your cracks from. Okay, we're going to go to the other side here. Just like I want to make sure this isn't blowing out of here when we do. I'll put a little accelerant on it, and that should stop that. Didn't want anything dripping over on the other side when we're doing this side. Okay, so here's this crack. Deal with, and this one. Those are the only three I see. We'll let those go in. When I see it disappear, that means that it's going in. It's going to be deeper on the inside. We're going to have stress cracks on the inside of the wood also. And this is just part of the little general inspection you do with wood. You know, you don't just jump in and just turn it and make a bowl without being aware of what's going on both the inside and the outside of the wood. Like this going through the wood could be a real problem when we get inside. Don't know yet. I see Rich is going to be going live. I'm not sure when. I'll try and get over to him when we're done here and see how he's doing. If you would hit that like button, I'd appreciate it. Or subscribe to the channel. I'd like to at least get enough subscribers to get us over 4,600 today. Shooting for 100 likes. If we can get 100 likes, I'll shut up. Okay? Not boring at all. Yeah, well, I try not to be, but you never know. People tend to not like to watch sanding, so go figure. All right, I'm gonna put my helmet back on here, and we're going to turn this back on. And now we're gonna try and take off a little bit of that glue that we just put on. Not really take it off, just kind of make sure everything's smooth. I'm not really removing the glue from the inside. Oops. Oops. Sorry, guys, I dropped you. There. I dropped you guys. just a second here. Let me get my alternative microphone. There. Hopefully you can hear me on that one. I'll put the other one away. Apologize for that. I accidentally knocked it off and not sure where the other half of it went, but we'll find that later. Okay. Hear me okay? All right. So there's that. Now we'll come over here and view the side. All right, it's nice and smooth, I think. Here we go. All right, so now all we got to do is just start sanding this a little bit, and then we can turn it around and make a bowl. All right, so now we get to do the fun stuff, sanding. Put that right there. That was the last little tiny bit of flatness right there. I can just kind of stand out. And get rid of these little dark spots where the super glue was, or the CA glue was. Okay, there we go. And that was just the 60 grit just to get anything off there that we didn't want. Now we can go with the finer grit, because it really was sanded down. I mean, the way I trimmed it and cut it, it really is down to about 240 grit anyway. This is mostly just to smooth out a little bit of the glue surface more than anything else. Yeah, it's nice and smooth. Okay, that is really feeling good. I'll do the 240 just for the heck of it. I'm not going to go up to 400 because there's just no reason to. You got an angry cow burger beef patty. Whoa, Swedish meatballs! You guys are making me hungry. It's only like 4 o'clock here, so it's not even dinner time on the West Coast. But you know, since I've been taking this, so I've been on Ozempic for a while, and it was mostly to help me with my diabetes, but it has also helped me lose just about 40 pounds. I've lost 40 pounds so far, and not really dieting, just being just being aware of the fact that I don't need to eat as much, and you know, I mean, I'm not being a pig or anything anymore. In fact, there's now times, and part of it's age. I mean, you get to a certain age where you don't get the big buffet dinners anymore or anything like that. kind of funny. When you're young, you can't afford to go out and eat and indulge yourself, and when you get old and you can afford to go out and eat, you can't. You know, it's like God's little joke on everybody. Sort of like when you have time for kids when you're retired, right? So, but you don't have the energy to have kids when you're retired. That's the other thing. Okay, so Rebellas, yeah. Yeah, it's different for different people. I was lucky between that and the Jardiance that I'm taking, really helped. I've been diabetic for 20 years, so I've really I understand my body and diabetes very 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 well. But diabetes is different for every single individual. That's the one thing I can tell you. Okay, so find what works for you. Now the thing is, in order for me to get that Ozempic medication, it has to be for diabetes. It can't be for weight loss. Otherwise, the insurance won't cover it. So it just happens to be a happy coincidence that I'm also losing weight when I do it. So now this particular wood, I don't think I need to reinforce the wood as far as like with tung oil. I'm just going to use Howard's feed and I always want to call it weed and feed. It's feed and wax. That could be weed and feed too, I suppose. And I'm just going to put that on here. And let that hydrate the wood just a little bit. And you can see kind of the nice colors that we get from this. Keep hitting that like button if you would, or hit the subscribe button. Also, I have memberships, just so you know. I do have memberships available for 99 cents if you'd like to become a member. We do try and do a few things for just the members. I sometimes put out videos that are out ahead for the memberships. And we've got, to be fair, I've put over I'm getting closer to 300 videos now. I had like 266, 75, something like that. But we're getting closer and closer to 300 videos on the channel. So it's not a small channel. We got all kinds of videos on there. There's a lot of good tips. That's what we started off doing, was just doing quick tips or little, 5 minute videos or something like that to just give you some good tips for woodworkers in general. And then it kind of evolved into this thing where I was doing lives and some shorts. And now I do mostly lives and shorts because that's what the YouTube algorithm says you should do. Go figure. And so, yeah, there's a lot there. And there's some of it's actually entertaining. You might learn a thing or two. No guarantees. It might be just rubbish to you, but like I said, it's free for everyone to look at, or if you want to become a member to kind of help us defray some of the costs of everything that we go through here. I've got to replace my hurricane. I got to replace this. It's going to cost me $150 because this one's starting to get a little bit short. That's my favorite. It's my favorite gouge for doing my bowls. All right, that looks really nice for first finish. I might put a second coat on there later, but for now, that's just to kind of get it going. What do you think? You like that color? I'll try and bring you in here for a closer look if I can. Oh, that's a little too much washed out. I like this right here. And it's really hard oak. Okay. So Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. They all slow down. I mean, if you're talking about, or if you're talking about your channel, uh, or the diabetes. Diabetes. Okay. Yeah. I had type two. I didn't know I had diabetes until I found out I had diabetes, and boy, it hit me pretty hard. But like I said, that was 20 years ago, and I'm feeling healthier than ever. Quite honestly, I've had kidney stones and a couple things and my kidneys are a little damaged from that. That's probably a result of the early not being diagnosed with diabetes. So if you get diagnosed with it, don't ignore it. It's not as hard to manage as you think it is if you just use some simple common sense. A lot of people don't understand what a carbohydrate is, and anything grain oriented, anything sweet, pretty much just about everything has carbs. A pickle can have a carb, you know, because a cucumber might have one or two carbs, but one or two carbs is not your problem. Your problem is when you pick up something like, say, if you get rice and it says on the package that a half a cup is a serving, read that. If you're eating a cup of rice, you're doubling whatever it says on the amount of carbs. So if there's like 40 carbs in a half a cup of rice, you're getting 80 carbs, which is at least 20 more than you're supposed to be having as a diabetic for your entire meal. I always tended to shoot myself, and everybody does differently, but I used to shoot for about 50 to 60 carbs at most per meal. But you can get a lot in that. For instance, the salads, for the most part, don't have hardly any carbs. Okay. Meat does not have any carbs to speak of. It's the sauce you put on the meat that has the carbs. Can you have French fries? Sure, you can have a few. You can't have handfuls. You can't order the McDonald's large fry. Okay. Or if you do, don't have anything for lunch. I mean, save your carbs up a little bit. Maybe you come in with your sugars down just a little bit. I mean, there's ways of handling it, is all I'm saying. You can adjust. Let's see where that cut. I can't even hardly see where those cracks are now. I see it right here when I'm looking really close. That's those cracks. So I want to make sure that those are not at some place where they're being separated. Okay, now let me turn this just to see. It's a little bit wobbly. Okay, so I can grind this in just a little bit. Just a little bit still. It's still wobbling a little bit. I'm not quite sure where that wobble's coming from. Let me look here. It's not on the axis. And it's mostly in there. It looks pretty good all the way around. It looks like it's about the same. A little bit light right there. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take a look at this just to see if I see anything. Could be it could be something as thin as a hair. Just a hair can make the difference. So let me get a. There we go. Could be something just that simple that's keeping it from really getting in there tight. And yes, I'm being very picky because when something's turning at 700 or 800 RPM right next to my face, I want to make sure my face is as protected as it can be from something coming flying off on it. You only have one face. That's a little better. Okay. I'll just kind of tighten that down. Tighten this down. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's going to have a little bit of a wobble. It's negligible at this point. Okay. Now, I think until we find out just what kind of wood we're dealing with, we're going to do this. We're going to knock our screwdriver on our drill bit on the floor because I didn't put it away. That's number one. Okay. Tighten that down. Tighten that down. Now see how it's turning. Okay, good. Now I think I can adjust this and then tighten it back up. There you go. There. I think that puts us in a better position. Okay, now, so the next question is, how do we get in there, and where do we put our tools? Well, I think I'm going to take this off, and if I can find it here, I'll go with one of our other straight pieces. Let's see, where would that be? Come out, wherever you are. Nope, not there. Might be over here behind me. Ah, here we are. Just had to look in the right spot. Okay. This is going to be short term, I can tell you, because I'm going to have to switch around here to get this to work. But we'll start with this. Okay. I think we've established a line. I'm going to lose some of this. There's just nothing I can do about that. All right. Now the tailstock has to come off. That's the only way to do this. I'm sorry to say. This has to come in. Make sure we're clearing. Okay. This is what worries me. Is this going to hold? Yeah. I have a question because I see here's something going click, 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 click. Ah, that's what I'm hitting. That's that branch piece right here. It's harder than the wood around it. And that's why I'm hitting that, and it's making that clicking noise. I just can't get this to go down any lower on this one. I think I'm going to have to change out my tool rest for the Laguna rest. Now, I don't like using the Laguna rest as much as I like my Robust. Robust is just better, just a better rest. It just is. But I use Laguna. I'll take this out. Put this in. It lets me go just a little bit lower. It has a little bit different stroke clearance than the other one does. So there. Gives me a little bit better angle. Whoa. Whoa, that was dumb of me. That was really dumb of me. Supposed to hand turn it every time before you start it up. Well, I'm just not on my game today, am I, guys? if we can speed that up a little bit. Okay, let's see if we're getting past that. We're still getting ribbons there. That's nice. Yeah, it's pretty clean here. Got a little bit of this right here. Okay. Try and catch up on my comments here for a second. 40 sheets. Holy heck. That's a lot of sheets, Harry. Now, hey, Depression. How you doing? I hope you bring happy thoughts. Depression's bringing happy thoughts to the turning today. If we can please get everybody to hit that like button, I'd like to get to 100 likes today. So far, we've made 210. And we've been making this cork oak bowl. Gotta move a couple things out of my way back here. There we go. I think I'm gonna have to sharpen up here in a minute. We've done a lot of this bowl without sharpening this once. And yeah, that flute needs a little bit of sharpening. So I'm gonna come over here for just a second. We'll do our handy dandy piece here. This gives me exactly 2 inches. I got a little penny in there that keeps it from going any further. That's exactly 2 inches. I can take it over because I've already got my grinder set up with this particular angle. Okay, that's all it takes is about 3 swipes. And we are sharp and ready to go back to work. Let's see how we can do here. Always got to be careful when you first get sharpened again, because you can tend to overcut. I want to kind of take a light path if I can. Nice and nice. Look at that. Nice thin pieces. I see everything changing in color here. In the wood. It's darkening. Okay. I'm going to take a little quick check here of the temperature of the, not the temperature, the moisture content of this wood. It's 12, 22, 22, 23%. It's very wet in the center. 24, yeah, 24% in the center. About 19, 20% here. The cork doesn't even register a reading. Okay, even the cork is a little bit on the wet side. So this is definitely still pretty wet wood, which is why we're getting the nice wet curls. I can feel them. 23% is pretty wet wood, and this has been in here for, I think, 3 or 4 months. I've had it. Let's see. Yeah, depression, I try and get into your lives whenever I can. I don't always get notifications on everything, because a lot of times I'll have 5 or 6 people going live at the same time. I try not to, as best I can not to go on when anybody else is going on. I try to be very conscious of that. But sometimes you just can't avoid it. Or sometimes I scheduled mine a couple days ago when someone else decided to go live, and I can't do anything about that either, because I'm not going to change my time if I already had mine done. So that's why about 6, 8 months ago, I decided to do these lives. I started doing them on Thursdays, and I've always done one on Thursdays. The only time I didn't do one on Thursday was on Thanksgiving, I think. But I do on Thursdays. Then I usually do one, sometimes 2 others during the week. Like I'm doing one today. Normally I might do it on Sunday or Tuesday. I'm doing one today because tomorrow I've got family coming into town. You know, I was reading something the other day. It was about A&W, the old A&W root beer and burger places. And one of the things that they tried years ago is the owner said, you know what, we're going to come out with a burger that's better than McDonald's, and it won all the taste tests. I mean, it really did. It kept every time there was a taste test, a blind taste test, they won hands down. And they put out a burger that was a third of it was a third of a pound instead of a quarter pound, and so it was bigger. A third of a pound is bigger than a quarter pound, people. It was bigger, and it was about the same price or even cheaper than the McDonald's burger, and it completely flopped. And you know why it flopped? Because people from our great, education system saw one third, and they thought that third was smaller than a quarter, because three is less than four. So they're thinking, well, if it's a third of a pound, it's not as big as a McDonald's burger, so it's no good. So they didn't buy it. And they actually found that out from doing um, test follow-up surveys with customers and stuff. It doesn't say much for our education system, and this was back in the 70s and 80s. Gotta admit, that's pretty sad. They can't tell the difference between a third and a quarter. They think a third is smaller. Yeah, so I do too. Yeah, thank you. I'm retired, and I try to do things in the afternoon here, my time. Problem is, being on the West Coast means you are 3 hours ahead of the people on the East Coast. And if I do things at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, it's already nearly bedtime in Europe. So I lose a lot of the Europeans. So if I start around noon, I don't get the people on the East Coast or the West Coast of the United States, but I get a lot of people from overseas because they're still up. So it's just a matter of what audience do you want to appeal to at the time. And it's a real mix. It's really mixed. I have some great people from overseas that watch the channel, and and I appreciate them. But I also want to be aware of the people here in California, for instance. And if you do a real deep dive into the breakdown of the audience and so forth, you'll see that a lot of the people that are watching at certain times of the day are a different age group, because the ones that are younger might be working at the time, and people that are retired are home and able to watch you. So this is really getting some issues here. I think I'm running into that other. Yeah, I think I'm running into that other branch now, or something, because something's hitting me here. And it's really hard. It's not letting me turn. I'll have to try. I'll try to scrape and see what happens with that. Not scraper, but that's why I say carbide. we are about here. We got about another inch or so to go. And we're encountering a little bit of difficulties here. I'm going to try and bring this down if I can, so that you can get a better view. But I apologize if I get in the way of it, okay? I'll just say that right now. But that way you can get a little better view of what I'm looking at. Here, I'll get the light down in there a little bit too. By the way, if you're wondering, this is a Robert Sorby number 4 that my wife bought me, had it engraved a while back. It is a real sturdy, heavy carbide. It's cheap in the leaf. I don't use it very often because I'm not really a carbide fan. I feel like I'm just scraping. I'm not gouging or cutting into the wood. I'm just scraping it like a scraper would. But for this particular case, it seems to be working quite well. So we'll keep using it. Since we're going very slowly, unfortunately at a 16th of an inch at a time, it takes 16 times passes through there to get an inch off. Let's see whereabouts we are here. Kind of hard to tell. You got stuff in there. I'm right about here. I need to be right about there. So I got about another 5/8 of an inch maybe to go. And I want to make sure I'm keeping the same taper on this edge all the way down. I don't want to be rolling in. If anything, I'd like to make it a little thinner. What do you think, guys? We're getting there. And I'd still need about 30 more likes. If we can get up to 100 likes, that'd really be great. So if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you can, subscribe. Yeah, Robert Sorby does make excellent tools. You're absolutely right, Jim. They do. Sometimes they're a little overpriced because of the name. But I will say this again. I've said this before, and I know that Ryan from 77 Rockets has quoted me too on this, because I turned him and a few other guys on this a long time ago. Amazon, I went and got these Benjamin Best scrapers. There's two of them. You get I think it's like a half an inch or 5/8 inch and a half inch, something like that. And this one, I tapered it so it has the cut comes all the way up to the side. And when I come in here and do this, it screws that whole side. It is the best scraper I've ever had. They last forever. You don't. I mean, and they're $40 for the pair. $40. That dirt cheap for a really, really good set of scrapers, and you won't be sorry. Now I have scrapers with different angles on them, anywhere from this is I think an 8 or 9 degree angle. I've got some that are at a 20, and I've got some that are at a 7 or 8 degree angle, a little bit less, because depending on what you're wanting to do with the scraper, it can be very aggressive. And there's times when you want to use that aggressive approach, but not always. But at about 8 degrees, you can get a really refined finish that hardly needs sanding. It's almost like using a skew. It really, really does a great job. And for the size of your bowls, without grabbing, they're great. And that's really what this does too. This is basically a scraper with a small blade. That's a scraper with a larger blade to it. But if you don't have a lot of money, if you want to get a lot of bang for your buck, I'd recommend going on Amazon and getting those. Now, you can go massive. You can go this size, and go in here and try scraping the bowl. But this is almost too big for most projects. Boy, it does the job, but it's not made for a bowl this size. But yeah, please hit that like button. There's about 80 people in here at the moment. So if you haven't hit the like button, please do that. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. That would really help the channel. We're trying to push hard to get to 5,000 subscribers. And I'll tell you, to get to 5,000 subscribers when you're not a major name, you're not a Richard Raffin or a Thomas Sloff or somebody like that, to get to that level, to get to 5,000 is a real achievement. And I'd really like to get that in our first year, because if we can do that, we can show people, look, give me some discounts for some of my some of my fans, and we'll have more discounts. By the way, there is a discount in the description for Strongink for fans. There's I think it's a discount on the shipping, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember now, but there is a link in there that you can use. And I'm going to take a measurement here in a minute. Okay, let's see where we're at here. We are down there. Okay, a little more to go. A little more to go. So I got to make sure that it's staying true all the way across. I might need to clean this up a little bit. And it's staying pretty even all the way down. I think we go a little bit deeper. It's just getting really hard to do that. This is wet, so this will probably, as it dries, yeah, that meat bottom needs to be just cleaned out a little bit there. Let's see how that goes. Yep, I think we got it. I think that's where I'm going to stop. I could go down a little bit further. Let me see. I'm debating because I want to be able to get down there enough to be flat, and it's a little bit bowed. There. Let's see how that did. Yeah, that feels better. Okay, good. Like I said, this is wet. It's going to be kind of wet as we clean this up. Okay. Lots of dust coming out of that. Yep. Okay, I'm going to get the vacuum just to clean that out a little before we. Yeah, can please hit that like button, guys. I'd really like to get close to 100. All right. Okay. So we got that all situated. Now we'll do a little light sanding inside. We're not going to have to do a lot. Okay. It's pretty smooth because that was a pretty hard wood. It's pretty smooth on the inside too. You'd really have this on, I guess, to pick up all the fine dust that's coming out. Yeah, I'm gonna be done here in just a couple minutes, and then anybody can go back and look at the beginning stuff. But I will show the pins before we go off the air here. So this is the pins. Let's go back and see how bad of a job I did with them. Got that part here with that one piece of the lid was coming in. A little bit rough right there. I want to make sure that's smooth. Okay. Alrighty. So now what we do is we can put some of that same feed wax on the inside that we did on the outside. I'm going to use a brush to get that in there because I got to get it into that bark. Should be okay. There it is. Now it's back, but everybody left. I don't know what was going on because I had full. I have full like my Wi-Fi and my cellular signals are both on full, and I have Speedify, which is supposed to not allow that to happen. So that had to be on the YouTube end of things because it wasn't on my end at all. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why that happened, guys. Anyway, I'll go back and tell you what I said earlier. I'm going to be microwaving this. What you do when you microwave, you put it in in the microwave in a plastic freezer lock bag, but don't seal it off, and run it for about 45 seconds. It'll get hot and it'll steam out. Take it out of the oven, stick it on a table somewhere in the house, and just let it sit for an hour or so until it's no longer warm to the touch at all. Once it is cooled off and all the moisture is basically out of the bag, then you do it again for another 45 seconds. And you can do that periodically, say 4, 5, 6 times,